Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. We bring you the right information to empower you, the SME entrepreneur. Tonight on the show, too, the influencer. First up is Nestaway. On the other side of a short break, Hubhopper in focus tonight. Whenever we ask experts about what is the one thing they wish entrepreneurs would keep in mind, most often than not, they tell us that entrepreneurs should look at finding solutions to real-world challenges and problems, and that really is the premise of Nestaway, a platform that aims to take away some of the challenges that those looking to rent homes face most commonly. Listen in to this conversation. Talking about something which probably most people can relate to, and that's the pain of really finding a home to live in and finding a house to live in, and how you use technology and how you use an idea and an innovation to really, tackle that. And that came about from a need that you yourself felt and saw. So let's start about those initial days. You were house hunting. You said, it was so difficult to find a house. You found landlords who perhaps were, picky about certain things, and the idea of Nestaway really came about from that.
Yeah, I guess I came to Bangalore in 2004 and we were 4 friends. I thought all of us had the best jobs in town, but when it comes to going and meeting landlords and sort of saying that, hey, you are single, we're coming to the city to work. And so when people would ask us, which company do you work for, where are you from, and sort of then, there's this mild no on their face, and then you would know that, hey, this is not going to work out. So we actually didn't get homes close to our workplaces. Fast forward 10 years from 2004 to 2014, when one of my cousins came to live in the city, and I went with her to sort of show her a couple of places around. And by then I thought and then I assumed that a lot of things would have changed, because from 2004 India to 2014 of India, internet went by 20x, and people have more money. Cities have become larger. There's more metro. There is absolute visible change in all formats in the cities that we live in. So I had this faint hope that
mindsets hadn't changed.
I had this faint hope that maybe it's gonna be a little more easier, if not completely out of it. But the story repeated itself, and then I was like, there's something to be done. And I sort of thought a little deeper about it. Went and spoke to little friends, people who are actually house owners among the circuit that I knew. And then I realized that, it is not that people didn't want to give houses to singles. The issue was, in India, home is the single largest investment that people have. And the atmosphere in this country is such that this infrastructure of legal, because it's a very crucial infrastructure for people to do business with each other, right? So, if your house gets stuck with a bad tenant, it's kind of stuck for ages together. And you could run from pillars to post in police and courts, and they don't seem like great options for owners. So they are trying to risk mitigate themselves based on their life views, based on what they have heard from markets. So they would say that, if I ask more deposit, then maybe I will get safer tenants, because there is only so much of people could afford to it.
Sure.
Or then they say I could actually rent to only a particular community of people, and maybe boys are more riskier than girls. So all kinds of things play out. But I realized that there is nothing called mindset issue, it's more about risk mitigation issue. So it felt like if a company can come in between and mitigate risks on both sides, make a couple of promises to the owner, say, what, even if the tenants damage this house, we'll come and repair it. What, even if tenants don't pay rent on time, we'll pay on their behalf. And when you want the house to be vacated, we'll make sure that the house is vacated. And we're a company, we'll exist and we'll service to them. It felt like owners are more than willing to sort of give their houses.
I do want to discuss, how the business model works in depth. But just going back to your early days, I just want to get a sense from you to say that this was a market that was completely untapped when you entered it. Now it's getting more competitive, but at that point you even had people questioning you to say, why are you looking in this market? Can it perhaps be, branded and consolidated in that sense? Did you have people who gave you good advice? Did you have a bank of, say, mentors who helped you? What was the importance of having those mentors? And for someone who's watching this interview, to tell them, this perhaps is where you can look for mentors. This is whom you should be approaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I had the good fortune of, knowing a couple of senior people in the industry, because I had another startup before building Nestaway, and through building that startup, I was in touch with many people in the industry and in the market who I actively seeked out and went out and reached them and said, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this. What do you think? What are the risks? What am I not considering? And one of the biggest things that mentors do is to actually counsel you out of this fallacy of risk. What they tell you is that, a smart guy like you, even if this doesn't work out, there'll be 6 months to a year worth of time lost. And you may easily lose that amount of time even if you fall sick, or even if something goes wrong somewhere in your life with your family. So don't over-index on going bonkers about how risky it could be, would it work out or not. I guess I got my biggest support in that. Hey, you know what? It's a right problem to be solved. It's going to be hard because you come from a technology background. You don't seem to have real estate experience. You don't look like you know people in real estate who is going to help you out. But it's going to be all okay. Things are going to fall into place. Go give an honest attempt and understand the industry structure, understand what's going to work and what's not going to work, and give it a good attempt. And we'll keep in touch every quarter, and we'll know. So I guess that helped a lot, because a lot of times a lot of people think that they can only do if they have experience in that industry or in that topic. A lot of times I think humans are brilliant when you unleash them on problems that they have no background on, because it's exciting. Every day is a new learning, every day is a new discovery. You enjoy the process of it, and it's actually, it's like a pacifier when you are going through the grind, because you're also learning a lot. If you a lot of times if you operate in the zone that you have familiar with, of course there's a familiarity comfort, but you also expect a lot more speed, because you think I know and it's not working, it's not moving. But when you operate in a new industry and hey, I'm learning, maybe I'm not doing this right, so you are by design self-reflective.
Okay, and you're bringing an outsider's perspective.
Yeah, you're looking inward, say,
sure.
Maybe I don't know it, and if you have a geeky bent of mind, you actually stick longer with that problem. So I guess that happened with us. We didn't have any background in real estate. People told us it doesn't matter. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe there was an intellectual understanding of it, but there's so much intellectual understanding. Somebody needs to come and tell you nothing is wrong, nothing is go wrong. Keep attempting it, and sometimes you need a nudge that you're not doing this right. Sometimes you need some amount of love, saying that, hey, it's okay, let's go and have an ice cream. So life moves on.
Great. Okay, fantastic. So you are definitely crediting some part of your success, at least, to the fact that you had good mentors. So let's talk about the business model. Sure. You started initially by saying that there are a lot of people who are moving to cities who perhaps are looking for homes. So, fully furnished homes was something that you started with, but you're looking at families as well. So you've been innovating constantly.
Yeah. So I guess we wanted to provide all form factors of long-term living in cities with us, and we started with by singles, because I thought their extent of problem was magnified, because we talk about India being has a demographic dividend, and all tons of very smart kids come from all parts of the country to the cities, and we magnificently fail them as a system in providing them as something as basic as housing. And if you think about it, girls actually spend a disproportionate amount of money on the rentals in the nature of looking for safety, which is money not spent on education and healthcare and career progress. So our research told us that boys or guys spend about, let's say, 15 to 20% of their rent of their salary on rent, whereas when it comes to girls, it could be as high as 60%, which is pathetic. Okay. Because I think, and I thought we are all failing them together. And it was everyone's problem, hence no one was looking at it, sort of. So we came with that view that we are going to go to the owners, guys like us who also may own a house, and we tell them that we'll stand in between, things will happen, don't worry. Now start renting to people, anybody, like whoever needs it. So we started with that, but then we realized that there is a cohort, a section of owners who want to also work with us, but are not completely comfortable with the fact that 5 people are going to stay in their house. And we also understood that their requirement is more convenience. They're not looking for rental upside. They just wanted the hassle to go out of them. And also singles don't live in every parts of the city. Singles only live in main parts of the city, but families live everywhere. So there is more price point variations that family need than the singles. And there were a set of owners who were willing to work with us. Hence, a lot of our owners actually took us to family rental. So we started with shared rental on us, but our owner base took us to family rental. But I think going forward, we'll innovate on formats. I'm pretty bullish on senior living, because I think there are a lot of us, like my parents live alone. I would want them to be taken care by someone some company where I have a view that they're going to do a good job. Now I'm critically dependent on some of my relatives or my neighbors being helpful, which is suboptimal because they also have their own busy lives as such. So you would see us playing across various form factors of long-term rental going forward, because I think there must be somebody doing it. Why not us?
Okay. Why hasn't anyone then consolidated this market? Why now you see a lot of people who are entering this space?
Yeah.
OYO, for instance, one of the larger ones perhaps is, according to reports, looking in this space.
Yeah.
What are the biggest challenges in this industry?
I think when we started in 2015 January, we actually had no idea. Like, for that matter, we were like minnows in the entire large real estate game. And I think we did a good job in sort of telling that these are attractive segments and this is an attractive proposition both for the owners and for the tenants. And real estate or the rental is such a large market. Like 50% of the people in all cities live on rental, and there are going to be various different kinds of needs. So there is it's kind of enough for, like, I would imagine, like even 20 players to come and put together to kind of have it. So now that they see that Nestaway, after 3 years, 4 years worth of hard work is working, I'm quite glad that the sector is getting created when more and more people are participating, because I think it takes like 10, 20 players to create a market.
Yeah. So you would say the biggest challenge is that most people thought perhaps
people didn't believe, right? People didn't believe enough that there is a market of this nature where you could actually build a big business. Okay. I guess, and people thought it's actually more harder than it was. Like, if you ask anybody, would you manage my house for the next 5 years? People are going to run away, I guess. If you come to Nestaway and say, hey, can you manage my house as an owner? If an owner comes to me and say, can you manage my house for next 10 years? I say, what? Why? Welcome. Why not? So I guess there's a big mindset shift that if we could do it, honestly, we have no background. We come from various purely technology backgrounds. So I guess now there's this newfound thing in the market that maybe it's doable. And there are other players doing tremendous work. I guess if we all put together are proving that it's going to be big and fun to kind of build up this sector.
Great. Thank you so much, Anand. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
Time for a break. On the other side, Hubhopper is in focus. Do stay tuned. We'll tell you what this company is doing when we come back after the short break. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight our second The Influencer conversation is with Hubhopper. Our second The Influencer conversation tonight is with Hubhopper, which is a news aggregator as well as a podcast platform that helps small businesses market their businesses better. I caught up with its very young founder, Gautam Anand, to understand how they are really working with small businesses and what some of the tips and advice are for entrepreneurs through this interview. Take a listen. Gautam, thanks very much for coming down to our studios. You're in a very interesting business. You're definitely in a business which is growing a lot and definitely something of interest to entrepreneurs. So it's great to have Hubhopper joining us today.
Thank you so much.
You're a very young entrepreneur starting this business off on your own. So I just want to understand, where the idea for Hubhopper came about, and if you can also talk about, sort of the different segments and the verticals that you're involved in.
Sure. So I actually have been a voracious consumer of content all my life. I consume content across platforms, across domains, across media types, across vernaculars. I actually started Hubhopper to make my own journey of content consumption easier and found my salvation in audio content. Why was basically because I found it as the most uninterrupted, seamless experience of content consumption there was. The genesis of Hubhopper was when I was actually working at Barclays as a risk analyst, and I would have to constantly move from passive consumption to active consumption, and the only way that I could do that was through audio content, because I could be listening to that content, and when I needed to become immersed in the content I could, and when I needed to work and sort of become passive with the content, then I could. So that was one of the things that I actually loved about audio content, was that it actually allowed me to be hands-free and consume it whilst doing other things as well. So that was the first sort of, I would say, love at first sight that What I started doing was I would listen to audio content on my way to work, on my way back from work, while cooking, while getting ready, while at work as well. And it was great because I was sort of, I saw that as indicative of an entire generation that's getting used to consuming more while becoming more and more lethargic in terms of their consumption.
Okay.
The second thing that I actually loved about audio content was the opportunity that it brought about. Our phones are with us for approximately 14 hours a day. We have on-screen time for about 5 hours a day, where 99% of your applications are actually fighting for that time. So all your Instagrams, all your Facebooks, all your YouTubes are trying to fight for that time. Your phone is with you for 7 to 8 hours as well in passive state, and very few applications can actually fight for that time. But audio can make the transition from active consumption, on-screen consumption, to off-screen passive consumption. So I actually saw the 7 hours that your phone was with you but you weren't consuming as opportunity cost, an opportunity where we could actually capitalize on.
Okay. So are we talking podcasts?
So we're talking audio content.
Okay. How a podcast perhaps different from what you're talking about in terms of audio content? Just break that down for us. And I understand you're a platform now, which is aggregating content from different publishers as well.
Yes, from different publishers, and we work with publishers as well. I would say the only difference between audio content and podcasts is the nomenclature. Audio content has actually existed for decades, and as Indians, we've been consuming it for decades through the radio, through MP3 files on our own devices, through Saregama machines, or through stories that people normally tell each other. In fact, we're a country that actually listens to YouTube more than we watch YouTube, which is something that I find very interesting. Podcasting, I find as isolating nomenclature because it sort of makes people feel as though it's content that they're not used to consuming, and it's content that they need to get used to consuming. They don't associate it with the audio content. So the first thing that I try to do is break that gap, or to sort of merge the two, where people associate stories of Premchand that they used to hear growing up, or stories of Mahabharat that they used to hear, or the Red FM stories that they used to hear as podcasts in themselves.
Okay. So while that may have existed for a while, correct me if I'm wrong, what is changing now is that these are being used as tools by businesses as an advertising platform, and that clearly is creating a huge opportunity, right?
The only thing that's actually changed is the medium of consumption. So the medium used to be through FM or through MP3 files. The medium is now moving towards more accessible platforms like your IoT devices or your cell phones, through applications, through mobile websites, or through integrations with your OEMs or your telcos. So when you take audio content and you put it onto the internet, it automatically becomes podcasting. So that's why you're seeing this incredible boom, because in India itself, in the last 3 years, you've seen a 17-fold increase in data consumption. So a lot of people are automatically gravitating towards audio consumption because it's natural for them.
Okay. So for a viewer who's watching this interview to say, great, I do know there's a big boom, whether it's video or audio content, but what does it mean for me as a business? How can I perhaps use these platforms? What do you have to say?
So I'll actually say that, first of all, a lot of people talk about how it's the time for video or it's the time for audio, and they actually see them as competing entities. If you look at trends, you'll see when data consumption booms in video, you'll see data consumption booming in audio. They actually work together. Why it's relevant for a business of any sort is because a business wants to be sort of noticed when a user is immersively consuming content and when a user is also passively consuming content. So a lot of businesses should focus on video and focus on audio as well, because you're actually being able to holistically capture a user's attention, whether it's off screen or on screen.
Okay. So one part of what you do is, of course, you're the publishing platform, you're the platform that's also aggregating content, but I understand you also work with content creators in terms of marketing, in terms of understanding really, the customers' wants, etc. Maybe some insights from there to tell our viewers, this is when you should be posting content, this is when you shouldn't be, this is what you should be doing or not doing.
So I'll actually jump in and say that in the last year itself, we've seen an incredible boom with large-scale creators like, the Indian Express, or you'll see Miss Malini, or you'll see Neha Dhupia. You'll see a bunch of creators at the top end, but you also see a large amount of indie creators. The reason for that is because audio content creation is both cost effective and also literacy agnostic. in comparison to other forms of creation, which is why you're seeing a bunch of creators entering this field, because it's cheaper and also there's no barring in terms of how educated you are as a creator. So that's why you're seeing this flow of creators coming in, and with regards to that, you're also seeing a flow of consumption coming in. What I would essentially say is that if you're somebody that's fantastic at the creation of this content, that's what you should focus on. Companies like us will sort of make sure that the other parts of your content creation and distribution cycle are taken care of.
Okay.
That's what our business is sort of, focused on.
Okay. One or two do's or don'ts that you would want to give them?
Don't mull over it too much. I'd say jump in and do it faster rather than later, because right now you're at the headwinds of an industry that's about to boom. You're going to see influencers in terms of voice very actively coming in the next few years, and you don't want to be sort of kicking yourself that you missed that boom when it was about to come. Now is the time to start. So that's both a do in terms of creation and a don't in terms of don't be apprehensive in terms of creation.
Okay. Speaking of that boom, a report I was reading on that CI has published says 123 billion, doubling in size for the media and entertainment space by 2022. That's the sort of size that they are anticipating. Where is this growth coming from? What are sort of some of the trends that you think will definitely pick up in your industry?
So first of all, you'll see all of the variables that make audio content boom anywhere else in the world all coexist in India at the same time. High commuting times. We spend more than an hour and a half on average as an Indian commuting. That's when audio consumption booms. A high amount of multicultural and multilingual individuals existing in one country. People that are heavily data stingy. And people that want to consume content across different formats. All of these things exist in India at the exact same time, which is why you're seeing a boom in this country. That, and also the emergence of things like Jio coming in and other competitors trying to make data much more accessible. So as a byproduct of data being more accessible, people want to consume more. Since there's automatic supply of data, there's going to be demand for content consumption. Okay. That's why you're seeing this boom currently occurring.
Okay. Wish you all the best, Gautam.
Oh, thank you so much.
All the best. All right, that's our show tonight. If you have any feedback for us, here's how you get in touch. leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com is our email ID. Reach us on social media. Sunanda_J is my personal Twitter handle. LOT_ET_Now is our official Twitter handle. Reach us also on Facebook, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.